So we'll just take a moment and settle ourselves into being here together. The transition that's zooming around us is okay. We'll just let that happen. But here we are together, sitting here. And kind of let go of the other activities of the day, the week, the hour, whatever it is, and just become present to where we are now, virtually and physically, both. So check in with your physical body, your sensations, and the breath. Then allow the physical body and this virtual environment to accommodate each other. And just settle your awareness on your breath for a moment, allowing the fullness of awareness in each aspect of in breath and out breath. And then we'll do this short prayer of taking refuge and generating bodhichitta twice in English and once in Tibetan. We'll do it together if you would like. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodang sogi chognam la changchu pardu dagni kyap suchi dagi chinyen gi pe sonam gi drola penshir sangye druparsho. Okay. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and I haven't listened to all of it, but I've been seeing quite a few times in the last month how he is emphasizing how taking refuge is not that easy. We shouldn't think of it as just saying the prayer and it's done with, or it's something that's simple or a preliminary. But if we actually take refuge, if we actually feel like we place our trust and safety in the hands of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, and the Dharma, and the Sangha, the very hi Shayla, nice to see you. I thought that's the X. I was pretty sure. um, in the community, not just the community of ordinary beings, but the community of beings that have already attained direct realization of emptiness, that Sangha, if we put our trust, faith, and um not hope, it's like taking a step forward, and in order to be kept safe from all of our habits that we have that cause us to bring suffering upon ourselves. Um, so taking refuge. I have no idea what all of Lama Zopa was talking about, but it feels like it's good to acknowledge he's talking about that. So this is our second class. Last week we began um, discovering Buddhism, transforming problems into happiness. And so today we're on to the second of 6 classes. And I wanted to start off with something I found on Alex Berzin's site. He has the same translation as we have in our materials of the Dalai Lama's commentary on the 8 verses, but he starts it with this one paragraph that I didn't see elsewhere. And oops, I'm gonna have to try to minimize myself so I can read it. So here it is. Sometimes, and this is quoting the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, sometimes we encounter very negative people, or others yell at us, or people we've helped are ungrateful. If we become angry and upset at them, we lose our ability to be of any help. But with the mind training methods, we can change our attitude toward them so that we not only remain calm, but are better able to be of help to others. The 8 verses of mind training, or attitude training, a text by the Kadampa Geshe Langri Tangpa, explains how to train our minds with method and wisdom so that we can change our attitude when we're in danger of becoming upset. So, when I read that, the one phrase that really stands out, and I'm going to try this little trick here. The one phrase that really stands out to me is our attitude training. This is something really important to understand, that when we take these 8 verses to heart, it's not necessarily it's not necessarily an instruction that's saying to you, put yourself in more danger, or put yourself in more situations of being belittled or taken for granted, or any of these kind of self-destructive patterns that we have sometimes in the West. It's really about changing our attitudes so that we can be of benefit to others, so that we can use method and wisdom and reframe what we're doing so that our real happiness is never shaken. I feel a little bit hypocritical because today I got upset with an 8th grader, and I got really upset. I mean, I was not just a little upset. I was pretty upset. And that doesn't happen every day, but it probably should. When we encounter very negative people, now this student was not a very negative person in my mind. I'm not saying that. But when somebody's yelling at us, or somebody that we actually are doing a lot for are ungrateful. That happens to me every day in middle school. What we do when we become angry is we lose our perspective. Anger has the habit of taking over and making us do things that we regret later. But here the real point that His Holiness is making it is that we lose our ability to be of any help. So it's based on that attitude and intention to be of service, of help, creating the benefit of bringing people along through ethics and the trainings of the Bodhisattvas all the way to enlightenment. So ethics, concentration, and wisdom bring us to wisdom realizing emptiness. And my my cursor has stopped functioning. So I'm trying to talk and manipulate technology, and it's not really working. Let's clear that. So I'm going to stop sharing so that I can start over. Okay, good. So I wanted to point out something that I think I mentioned last week, but I wanted to point out a little bit more about it. You've probably heard this in other classes. There are 3 types of ways of interacting with Dharma. The first one is listening to the Dharma. And that's where we are consciously learning something new. We're listening for something that we haven't known, something that's informative. And then we are asked to analyze it or study it. Contemplate is the word. So the powers of listening, contemplation, and meditation. So we listen, consciously listen to learn, and then we analyze. How does that apply to the self? And this is really where we start to put ourselves into that picture, studying how to apply that, right, to ourself. But only after we've contemplated it and started to make it make sense to ourselves, then we meditate on it and we familiarize ourselves with it. So these verses, these 8 verses of thought training, of mind training, of attitude training, first we listen and we check it out. We don't need to jump in and say, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. We listen and then we analyze. Is this something that's really of benefit for me? Is this something that I can go deeply into? Is this something I can make a part of my moment by moment practice of Dharma? So it's like, how do I bring the teachings of the Buddha into reality in my own life? So I study how that would happen, and then I do it. Then I make that contemplation a habit. I make the integration so much that then there's a spontaneous arising of um, of the process that I've listened to. I've learned how to do it. I've analyzed how it's going to apply to myself, and then I've familiarized myself to the point where not only is it totally applying to myself, but every moment of myself in a deep and habitual way. So it's like an integration of that, which also kind of builds into a spontaneous arising of that. So Buddhism is very, very rich in how it, and the discovering Buddhism kind of gives you that vastness, so that you when you cycle through it again and again, it's not all new, but it's always um, informed by all the other listening, analyzing, and familiarizing that you've done. So it becomes quite rich. Any questions so far? So we did our little motivation with this explanation of attitude training from His Holiness, and the ways of knowing, and the listening, analyzing, and familiarizing. And then we have an investigation of who do we receive the most benefit from. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. What perspective are we taking for granted is another way of kind of looking at this idea of we're reframing our understanding of happiness. We're framing our understanding of what's precious. We're reframing our understanding of how to interact with others. But what is it that's sort of the basis of how we see things now? What perspective are we taking for granted in how we look at things right now, before we talk about how we might change that? Maybe a little bit of thought about how rational thought based views might go against our kind of habitual or instinctual survival mode ideas. We'll talk about the first couple of verses and discuss those, and a little bit more how that reframing is a practice for happiness, dedication, maybe homework, maybe not. I don't know if you guys want homework. I don't know if you want to do the inquiry again we did last time, and if you don't, we can skip the inquiry and just do discussion. And we're small enough group, it would be easy to do whatever you want to do. So we talked last time about the context being important, and that this is really all about happiness. I think I mentioned 6th grade social studies kind of brought that to the forefront for me. But it's what I wanted to emphasize this week was what kind of happiness. When you hear the word happiness, what do you think of? I mean, what is happiness to you, and what kind of happiness is it that you think Buddhism is talking about? Because they may not be the same. Like everyday happiness, we think of chocolate, we think of chocolate mousse at the top of the Eiffel Tower, we think of falling in love with somebody new, we think of getting a nice present at Christmas or on our birthday, we think of somebody acknowledging what we've done and how that feels. What do you think of when you think of happiness? Yeah, please. Yes, Barbara.
When I think of happiness, I think of contentment.
Yes.
And all of the things that you mentioned, you know, I mean, they're nice, but again, they're fleeting. It's not, to me, happiness is contentment within myself, with myself.
When we start using the word contentment, it matches up what, when I've studied Lorik, which is the types of mind. I don't know if you've studied Lorik yet, but the types of mind, that the one that comes closest to a happy mind is one that's at peace, which is sort of goes along with contentment, that sense of being at peace with what is happening, what content with what is happening. Contentment in the West, we have a little bit of tendency to think it's sort of complacent or too accepting, maybe, like contentment to be, no, not for you. but in some people's minds, it's like a little bit lax or without energy. And I don't think we're talking about that kind of contentment. I think we're talking about, the kind that's striving, but content at the same time. It's like it's dynamic contentment in my mind. Anything else? Sure, Shayla.
Two things. For me, when I hear the word happiness, it always reminds me of my happy food dance when I taste something so incredible that you got to do a little dance. And then how do you spell Lorik? Sorry.
Lorik?
Yes.
What do you mean Lorik?
You just
Lorik. Oh, Lorik.
Lorik.
L-O is one word, like lojong is the same word. L-O is mind, and rik is R-I-K or R-I-G, depending on which system of transliteration you're using. And it means type or yeah, categories of type. Type is usually how it's translated. So it's the types of mind, Lorik.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And, Linda is
I thought you were talking about the Lorex from I'm like, why are you asking me how to spell the Lorax?
That's Dr. Seuss. Yeah, I would.
I'm like, okay, I'm used to middle school minds, but I still don't follow this one. So that's really great. So it's nice that I kind of get the sense that we are not really focused so much on those fleeting things, even though the happy dance of food is, it is something that makes us happy in the moment. And so but knowing that Buddhism isn't about that fleeting part is good to hear, that you're already there. I wanted to ask, in this context, about the community, because here we are, since it's just the four of us, it's very, very nice feeling of community. It doesn't feel hard to trust each other, right? But last week I had the thought, well, maybe it was because of something I didn't set up properly. But if it's too much to ask to trust, to do like the inquiry and things like that, just let me know. Like if something doesn't feel right at any point in the next few weeks, let me know and I'll adjust. Because I want this to build community, not make us not trust each other and disappear, right? So and I also wanted to say, these seem like they're random thoughts, but they're all about when we're studying this text, how we're approaching it, right? We're talking about what makes happiness and how we're benefiting or helping bring lasting happiness to others. We're talking about how we can support each other as a community. And we're talking about lojong itself as a topic. As we go deeper into it, it's not always comfortable. It's not designed to be, peaches and cream or puppies and butterflies. It's not designed that way. The Kadampa, it comes from the Kadampa tradition. And these guys were serious in their striving for enlightenment. They were not known for mincing their words. They were really direct in their instructions. And some often were, kind of severe in their behaviors. When you think about, I'm forgetting, I think it was Chikawa who realized the meaning of the Lamrim stage of death is certain, the time of death is uncertain, and nothing but Dharma helps at the time of death. When he realized that, he would go outside to go to the bathroom or do something outside that he had to do, and there was a bush that was growing in the way of the door. And every time he went out, he'd think, I should really cut that down, But every time he came back, he's like, I don't have time to cut it down because I've got to go practice now. Like there wasn't any time even to take care of mundane things like a tree growing in front of your door and blocking your way out. So this type of practitioner is really inspiring, but it's not what everybody can do. Not everybody can spend every day, all day, ignoring the fact that there's a tree in the way of their door, or not making any money, or like not taking care of family or whatever in order to practice Dharma. Luckily, we can integrate it as an attitude into everything we are doing. If we can remember when we are actually faced with somebody who makes us angry, like I forgot today. So I thought we would go into the inquiry tool if we wanted to, or just go into the discussion if we want to, about a different question tonight. And I didn't take off that, sorry. The two questions are, who do we receive the most benefit from? And what perspective are we taking for granted? All right, so who do we receive the most benefit from? And what perspective are we taking for granted? So I'm going to take notes and you guys can help me. Whoops, can't do it here. Not sure if I can do this. Okay, so let me take notes here. Who benefits us? Who brings us the most benefit? Who do we receive the most benefit from? Yes, please.
As difficult as it is, I receive the most benefit from difficult situations and difficult people, because that's where I'm really learning about myself. It's easy to be with people that are friends and family and, people of like minds and like attitudes and that type of thing. So for me personally, and again, it's really difficult, but it's people that are challenging, situations that are challenging, because like Venerable Rabina says, they show you your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I have to agree with you there. I don't like it, but I do have to agree with you there.
What other ways can we think? Go ahead, Linda.
I also think it's, I get great benefit from people who are more experienced than myself, like the teachers at Tibetan or Freeling and, you know, all the other different sorts of classes from groups that I'm studying with, who have, you know, a different perspective from my own, who have ideas that I may have not tried of how to handle things.
So I heard people who are more experienced and people with different perspectives than your own. Is that right? And then at the end, I didn't catch the third point.
I'm not quite sure what it was. It was having, I
Okay.
think having to do with studying with different groups of people. So it's like a broad, getting a broader awareness rather than just my own tunnel view. So being able to step out of my own shoes and look at things from someone else's viewpoint. Which I think really is helpful when I'm dealing with a challenging situation or a challenging person who's, like what Barbara was talking about. You know, that's not necessarily comfortable, but I learn the most for myself from those situations, and being able to, you know, think about it and analyze afterwards how I handle things and what I could have done differently.
So what is it about difficult situations that is so beneficial? I mean, we say learn more, we broaden our perspective, but what in that process of having something that really pushes us to see our own mind, to see how it reacts to that, what's the benefit in that? What is it that, how do we get benefit from
For me, it just
difficult?
shakes me out of my comfort zone and forces me to look without. Well, of course, I always, you know, over exaggerate and, you know, get angry, and then afterwards I have to sit down, and when I'm thinking about it, yeah, it shakes myself. It shakes my thought process. It kind of pushes me towards looking at it in a different way. I don't know. Does that make sense?
I think it pushes me out of my self-cherishing or myself, putting myself first.
And for me, it's looking at something from a different angle, broadening my perspective. And you know, what you had mentioned a little bit earlier is changing my attitude sometimes, or at least looking at my attitude about what's said, a situation, that type of thing.
So if we have everybody in the world agree with us all the time, right? If that's the way the world was, and no one pushed us to the point of having any anger or anything like that, what would happen differently? What would we be missing out on?
I think we would be missing out, or I would be missing out on a different point of view. a different way of seeing things, doing things, just a different way than the one that I am comfortable doing.
So what we're looking at is really starting into this first verse, right? What makes people precious to us? So we're going to take what we just did together in terms of looking at who benefits us the most, and we're going to now look at the first verse. And the way that it is translated here, we'll look at it in a couple of translations just to kind of make it a little more rich. But the way it was translated in the article that we have is determined to accomplish all success. I shall always practice holding dear all sentient beings who are more precious than wish-fulfilling gems. When I read this, I hear 4 main points. Bodhisattva success, practice holding dear all, and wish-fulfilling gems. So I wanted to go into those 4 things, and we're going to keep in mind this idea of who is it that we're talking about. And last time we talked about the 3 types of persons: the friend, the stranger, and the enemy, quote unquote enemy, but it's really the person that upsets us, right? The person that challenges us and makes us uncomfortable. So, determined to accomplish all success, bodhisattva success. What do you think when you hear that? Do you have anything that you relate to?
For me, being a bodhisattva is being willing to help and be there for everybody. Those that we love and hold close, it's those 3 categories. And so the challenging person is one of the people in those categories. You know, the friends, not an issue. The strangers, you know, there's potential there that they could become our friends. So they're not, is for me, that's not as difficult. It's the ones that challenge me and that I don't agree with. But that is where working on the path to being a bodhisattva is there. That's where it's at.
Okay. How about when we're talking about accomplishing all success? What is the success we're talking about? What do you think Longri Tempa is trying to say when he's saying all success?
Would that be removing from everybody, taking never mind, I don't know.
No, you're what you're saying, removing suffering. Is that what you mean?
From everybody. Would that be the ultimate goal, or would the success be, you know, just one being in one moment?
Well, determined to accomplish all success in the context of being a bodhisattva. You could say it either way. You could say, I'm determined to become enlightened and remove all suffering from my own, right? Or you could say, the purpose of my becoming enlightened is to remove suffering or help remove suffering of others from everybody. What do you think?
I'm going to start with baby steps and go with 1 from one person and one moment.
You know, there are 3 types of bodhisattvas, right? Have you heard of the 3 types of bodhisattvas?
I've just heard of 2.
Okay.
The aspiration, and then the achievement of achievement.
So
Is that-
that's bodhicitta. Okay. So there's aspirational bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. There's also relative bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. But when we talk about there being 3 types of bodhisattvas, there's the king type that goes ahead of everybody and becomes enlightened first in order to go back and help people. There's the boatman bodhisattva who is ferrying people across to enlightenment while he's becoming enlightened, or she in this case, since we're all female. And then there's the shepherd who pushes the whole flock ahead of himself or herself and is the last to be enlightened. So there are 3 types of bodhisattvas in that way: the king, the boatman, and the ferryman, and the shepherd. King-like, ferryman, and shepherd. I'm taking notes, so you can too. But when I read this, I think a little bit. I think that the Kadampas are taking it past the baby steps into the real Bodhisattva way, right? So here we have our thoughts. My kind of what I wanted to highlight includes determined itself relies on having chosen and committed to this kind of training, right? It's like you have to be a bodhisattva to really do this training. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not, oh, sometimes I'll do it on the weekends. It's not a vacation training, right? This is hardcore determination. Accomplish acknowledges that it's possible, that we can actually do this in our own life. But it takes a lot of effort to accomplish something. You actually have to put effort into it. It's not like something that just floats down and covers you and you got it. This is something that you're striving to get through effort, but it is possible. It's both of those. So to me, when I read this, I hear those things in the word accomplish. All, like I believe Barbara was talking about earlier, puts that emphasis on without any lack. And I think that includes self and other success. Self meaning this one person is going to relieve, but I'm not going to have any more suffering because I'm going to eliminate the causes for suffering through all of my efforts. And through the merits of the bodhisattva attitude, the bodhicitta mind, and the vastness, I think I spoke of this last time, the vastness of the numbers of sentient beings, which are the objects that you are doing the merit towards. So because you're going to become enlightened for the benefit of all these sentient beings, that anything done with that attitude has a certain type of merit that is in relationship to all that incredible number of beings. And then the success in this phrase is, I think, enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. Right? So I don't know that that's like there's plenty more to learn from other presentations, His Holiness's presentation, Lama Zopa's presentations. This is just me kind of like looking at the words and seeing how it comes out. But I think in order to do this phrase, determined to accomplish all success, you have to be incredibly brave. You have to be a bodhisattva. You have to identify your comfort zone, just like Shayla was talking about. It takes her out of her comfort zone. And you have to really be committed enough, determined enough that you're not going to be faint of heart when somebody who's really challenging is in your face. It doesn't mean you are going to be a meek victim of everybody that comes along to challenge you. It means that your heart attitude has this bravery, this attitude of, I'm going to do these practices regardless of the appearance of these people that would ordinarily make me really angry. And at some point, like we started with the Tonglen, at some point you're taking suffering and you're giving away all good things, right? So are you brave enough to take on that suffering like we did last time in our imagination? Are you brave enough to do that for real? Is that part of your, does that push you beyond your comfort zone? And are you willing to do that for everybody or just some people? So then I am going back to the verse, and I shall always practice holding others dear, right? So we talked about this. What does it mean to hold others dear last time? And this again relates to those all, right? Always and practice and holding dear were what I thought we could glean from this phrase. This is a practice. It's not like a perfection, right? It's something that you apply moment by moment in your life without fail. But you have to be kind of careful. I did it too often in the middle of the public school system in Oregon. Yeah, you'll see. It doesn't always it doesn't always mean you manifest it outwardly. Sometimes it's an internal attitude, not an external manifestation. All right, so what are your thoughts about this aspect, the all sentient beings? What does a sentient being mean? What does all mean? What are we talking about?
A sentient being in my mind, from the definition as I understand it, is a mind possessor.
What does that mean?
And then all is all mind possessors, all of them.
So who possesses a mind?
The beings in all the realms, in the
Okay.
6th realm.
Mm-hmm. So the 6 realms coexist in one spot, right? Just like we are in this spot and there are animals in this spot, this world. There's the God realm, the demigod realm, the hungry ghost realm, the hell realm. And the animal realm and the human realm, all these realms coexist together. But does that only mean that it's on this planet? So Buddhism actually believes in lots of extraterrestrial beings, right? At least Tibetan Buddhism and what I've understood. It's hard though, when you think of a mind possessor, does a plant have a mind or not? I mean, this isn't a debate that in Western popular culture, right? Do plants have minds or not? And there's some evidence that there's a connection, there's a mental connection between human minds and the plants around them, especially when you get into fungi. I mean, so are fungi mind possessors? Are viruses mind possessors? I mean, what are we talking about? Are we talking about everything we can conceive of, or is it just, animals, humans, and these things we call gods and demigods and hungry ghosts and hell beings? But we don't really, most of us don't have direct experiences of them. So then, it's kind of, it's good to think about sometimes, but when we're talking about the Bodhisattva, the reason we're thinking about it is because of the word all, right? We are going into the vastness of what we're talking about. So here's some little things, little tricks that I've heard over the years. Like, you imagine how many insects there are in any given area, right? Waterborne insects, all the insects that are in the water, all the insects that are in the dirt, all the insects that are in the air. It's a huge number. And that's just the insects, right? I think there's something like 4 chickens for every human on the planet, or maybe it's 7. So either 4 or 7 chickens per person, per human person. That's just chickens. So we got 8 billion people. We've got how many chickens, right? And then you figure there's at least 100 mosquitoes there's probably thousands of mosquitoes per person, right? And that's just 2 things: mosquitoes and chickens and people. That's 3 things. Oh my gosh. So now when we really are talking about all sentient beings, we're going through every single category of every kind of shellfish and every kind of earthworm and every kind of creature that's crawling on the earth and every kind of creature that's flying in the air and swimming in the oceans and the rivers and lakes. And that's just this planet. And then you multiply it by infinite numbers of planets. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about all sentient beings, not just some small number of all sentient beings, not just the ones we love or the ones we hate, which are almost easier to remember sometimes than the ones we love or don't know, right? But it's really, this phrase is to blow our mind. It's supposed to blow our mind every time we think about it because of the number. It's inconceivable. And for each one of those sentient beings, mind possessors, as you say, each mind possessor has the potential to become a Buddha. And our job as a bodhisattva is to get them there. And this is exceedingly important because not one single one of them is to be left out. When we develop bodhicitta for real, not one single one of these sentient beings is ignored. And when we have that as the basis for any simple action, turning off the light, turning it off, turning it on. If we have that motivation, I'm going to turn this light on so that all sentient beings become enlightened. It can be as simple as turning on a light and you get an incredible amount of merit because of the true intention to benefit that number of beings. And then you also look at it in terms of that number of beings having the vast number of problems that they have, the vast number of sufferings that they have, the vast number of obstacles that they have, and you're willing to take that on. And you're willing to do this consistently and constantly until that task of enlightening them is accomplished. Now, I don't know how many of you are in a situation where you teach anything to anyone. But when you're dealing with kids, you pretty much have to have a lot of patience because they don't get it the first 10 times. If it's something that they don't want to get, especially, right? Or a habit that they have that they don't want to let go of. So think of our own habits that we have. Just your own habit, whatever it is, and how little you want to let go of that habit. And then you're going to be faced with people with even more stubbornness than yourself. And accomplishing this task is going to take a huge amount of patience. Huge. Am I making you uncomfortable? Am I pushing your comfort zone? So we have this image of, I want to be a bodhisattva because it's the thing to do, right? But we don't have a very realistic picture of what it really means. And then when we get to something that's a little difficult, we give up. This is our cultural stumbling block, I think. We don't really understand this. We feel like, oh, this sounds really good. We say the words, we have this romanticized image of what a bodhisattva is. But we don't understand the simplest thing, that it's talking about this incredible vast number of beings who face an incredibly vast amount of suffering and obstacles and problems. And we as bodhisattvas are saying we're going to take that on to some degree. Now, we don't have to take it on all at once as a beginner, right? We can say, this is really, really, really valuable. Even if we don't accomplish it, it's really valuable because it pushes us. It pushes us to understand emptiness a different way when we really take on the bodhisattva aspect of it. And it really makes Dharma real instead of words that we're listening to. Because what it means is that we have to transform enough in ourselves to accomplish that level of bravery and skill. Because when you think about it, do you really think that a Buddha is overwhelmed by any of this? A Buddha has figured it out, and they are so competent in everything that they do. It's like being, superhuman, right? So it's not like the suffering of others is impacting a Buddha or a Bodhisattva and a high level Bodhisattva like it impacts us now, right? We think of all that suffering, we think that's impossible. I can't even carry my own suffering, let alone all that. But by developing our capacity, by striving to be a bodhisattva, we develop our capacity to actually handle more and more and more for more and more and more beings. That's the training. That's what this is all about. This is how we're making ourselves happy. How does that make us happy? Yeah. How? Did you want to say something, Shayla?
I had this conversation with my mother today. And before Buddhism, when I would get overwhelmed, I would become angry and very angry and lash out. But I can, we were discussing today that there's been such a distinct change in me in these past couple of years, where I can handle a lot more stress, and I'm able to slow myself down so that I don't lash out in anger or, that instant thought of, I don't want to do this, type of stuff. And I can handle more than I have in the past, which is kind of cool to think that, maybe with meditation, I'm actually slowing down, and yeah, kind of like it. It's kind of neat.
Okay, so we'll keep going then. So the next phrase in this verse is, who are more precious than wish-fulfilling gems? So all sentient beings who are more precious than wish-fulfilling gems. So this ties in with this question of, how does this make us happy? And how we develop our own capacity, right? In order to develop our capacity, as we've said before, the people that challenge us get us there quicker, right? They get us to expand our capacity. We're not comfortable with it. We get angry. We can see our own mind. We know how to calm our mind down, and we change our mind. And man, that person that used to make us angry is the cause of our happiness now. Right? But also, we just mentioned how much patience it's going to take us to be a bodhisattva and handle all the problems of all these sentient beings. How are we going to learn that kind of patience? Really learn it. We're not going to really learn it from somebody that says, yes, 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 yes. Oh, you're right all the time. We're going to really learn patience, which is when someone triggers that anger response, where we have to practice patience. That's how it comes about. That's how we learn patience. We have to practice it. That's the wish-fulfilling jewel. That's the preciousness of a sentient being that's even greater than something that will give you what you want. Right? Imagine what a jewel is worth. Imagine what the most elaborate emperor, Chinese emperor, or Maharaja, or Egyptian, or Mayan. Imagine what, or Cleopatra, like Greek and Rome, what treasures the world has. Imagine the richness. And we're talking about a sentient being being more precious than all of that. And then out of all the jewels, the wish-fulfilling gems are the ones that are most sought after. These are the ones that are going to give you what you wish for. This is like magic, right? This is beyond preciousness of jewels. We're talking about like the myth where, you find this silky skin, or you find the Japanese fish maiden, whatever it is, all these myths where you get what you actually are most desiring, your 3 genie wishes, right? And even as precious as those could be, if you use them correctly and don't waste them like somebody named Jack, if you ask for the right wish, you get like ever fulfilling wishes, and you're set for lifetimes. But these sentient beings, because they give you practice of patience, and you cannot become enlightened without the practice of patience, they are more precious than anything you can imagine. Especially those people that you might call enemy because they are so hard to handle being around. Because those are the ones that make you practice patience the most. Linda, you doing okay? Okay. Does this make sense?
It's total sense. It has me thinking. Yeah.
Oh, thinking is good.
Analyzing.
Analyzing, listening, analyzing. Then you get to meditate on it, familiarize yourself. All right, so here's another translation I wanted to show of that verse before we went on. These are all 8 verses. This was from Berzin. He translated these, Alexander Berzin. And he translates that first verse, may I always cherish all limited beings by considering how far superior they are to wish-granting gems for actualizing the supreme aim. May I always cherish all limited beings by considering how far superior they are to wish-granting gems for actualizing this supreme aim. So you can see here how he's reorganized it. It has all the same parts, but the words are slightly different, which makes our mind think about it a little differently. The supreme aim being all success, yes. Barbara?
I'm not sure what limited beings, what that means. Limited
That's
beings.
the all sentient beings phrase. So all sentient beings does not include Buddhas. A Buddha is not a sentient being anymore. So even though your definition is correct, mind possessor, right? A Buddha still has a mind. There's the mind of the Buddha, but the mind of the Buddha is totally immersed in Dharmakaya. It's not separate from Dharmakaya. And so what Berzin is doing by using that phrase, all limited beings, is he's highlighting that we're talking about non-Buddhas here. Okay, so may I always cherish all non-Buddhas, all limited sentient beings, by considering, even though they're limited, that they are so much more precious to me than something that would fulfill all my wishes, because they are what helps me actualize enlightenment. Make sense? Okay. So now let's go on. I'm not sure what we'll get through today, but it's fine. We'll do what we do. Second verse, we'll start with how he says it here. Whenever I come into anyone's company, may I regard myself less than everyone else, and from the depths of my heart, value others more highly than I do myself. Whenever I come into anyone's company, may I regard myself less than everyone else, and from the depths of my heart, value others more highly than I do myself. Ooh, if we're taking this honestly and seriously and deeply, this one hurts. Oh, we're talking about all three types of people. Remember, we're not eliminating those people that are seriously challenging. Okay, I can do that with my friends, and maybe I can do it with people I really don't know. But no, I don't want to give up myself. Play that place for myself in comparison. No, 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 no. That person that is making me so upset, no way are they higher than me, supreme to me. I'm lowest of all. Oh no, don't want to do that. Okay, we did this already. We'll come back to that. Here's how this other translator did it. Wherever I go, I had a problem with this when I read it. I was like, this isn't how I've heard this before. Wherever I go doesn't have the same impact as whenever I meet someone or whenever I'm in anyone's company. Wherever I go and whomever I accompany. Wherever I go and whomever I accompany. So this translation now is taking us into thoughts, taking me right now into thoughts of this idea of going and not going, staying and not staying, that has to do with like I don't know if it's Zen or something, but it's this kind of emphasis on doing, acting, And there are the three circles of the actor, the act, and the object of the action. But so there kind of is an echo in there of something along those lines that takes us into a little bit of emptiness. But the Dalai Lama was really clear. These first 7 verses are about method, not about wisdom. So it's just an echo. Anyway, wherever I go and whomever I accompany, I shall practice seeing myself as the lowest of all and sincerely hold others dear and supreme. Okay, we're back to that holding others dear, but we're adding it in the supreme. Now, I really like the Berzin translation better, but I went through this version because this is what we have. And so there are 4 main points again. Whenever I am in the company of others, I rephrase that because that's what I like. Practice humility and all others as dear and supreme. So we're going to go one by one again. Wherever I go and whomever I accompany, I shall practice seeing myself as the lowest of all and sincerely hold others dear and supreme. Oh, guess what? I ran out of time and didn't do the rest of my preparation for those. Okay. So whenever I am in the company of others, so here we are taking on the Bodhisattva path, right? We're in the context of having developed bodhicitta, at least the aspirational bodhicitta that wants to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. We've taken that step into engaging into actions. We've become a bodhisattva, which means that we have some idea of emptiness and have diminished this grasping at myself as a separate entity that deserves more than anyone else. And now I go out into the world and I encounter people. Whoever I encounter, whenever I'm in the company of others. So this isn't in my own company, in my own little cave, in my own little bedroom with my tankas all around saying, you know, thinking whatever I want to think on my cushion, right? But when I'm actually engaged in being with others, I'm going to practice this incredible act of being humble, keeping myself, seeing myself as less than everyone else, the lowest of all. Okay, so this is the part where I was talking before about, you know, you don't have to become the victim and let everybody walk all over you. It's like you don't need to become the doormat, really, but you are practicing this. How are you going to not become the doormat and see yourself as the lowest of all? Well, in reality, when we practice something, we usually do one extreme or another, right? We don't get the finesse of being able to do it. And so it's dangerous. This verse, I think, in my own experience, trying to practice it, slightly dangerous. Because people don't understand it when you think you're the lowest of all. They really don't feel comfortable around somebody who thinks they're the lowest of all. They like to trample on people who think they're the lowest of all, to be honest, and especially if they're middle schoolers. You know, you act weak, adults do this too. They like to make the person that was just sick work harder when they come back to work. I don't understand it. But that's been my experience. So in my kind of like thing is to think about this like the Dalai Lama was saying about the attitude training. This is attitude training. And at some point, and I don't remember exactly where, you know, this whole teaching was secret, practiced in secret. You're not supposed to go around saying, oh, I'm practicing the 8 verses of lojong, right? You should know this is what I'm doing. Make sure you know that's what I'm doing, right? So it's secret in 2 ways. Like, it wasn't given to everybody because it's really not for everyone to practice. It's for someone who's serious about transforming their mind to be a bodhisattva. But it's not for somebody who's going out to barter and make money for their family. Unless you have the skill to do this as an attitude training, where you're still bartering and making money for your family on the outside, but on the inside, you're accepting the fact that at some level, you are not any better than anyone else. So your doormat is only in your own mind. It's not laid out for everybody to trample on. I'm the lowest of all, meaning I'm not going to put on airs unless somehow it's beneficial for someone, like a 7th grader. Because the instruction is to not change anything on the outside. This is only to change something on the inside of yourself. But if you don't have that instruction, you think, oh, I have to be the doormat. That's not how I understand it. Wherever I go and whomever I accompany, I shall practice seeing myself as the lowest of all and sincerely hold others dear and supreme. Unless you really, really, really want to become a bodhisattva, right? And you have some sense of security and you just want to practice this, holding others supreme and above you is an incredible practice. So whenever you can practice this, again, it is incredibly powerful for transforming the mind, right? And for creating this incredible merit, because you're doing it for the benefit of all sentient beings. You're holding them dear because they are your wish granting gem. They are creating the causes for you to become enlightened. They are supreme to you because without them, without the dearest of them, the ones that are the most challenging, the ones that you wouldn't hold dear in ordinary life, they are so precious and dear and supreme to you. Yeah. So when you do want to become a bodhisattva, then you might put that doormat out and not worry whether it's inside or outside so much, because you're practicing thoroughly. That is all dependent on your mind and where you're at. And knowing, I think I said this last time, knowing what you're working on in your own mind, and when it's a good time to do that and when it's not. It takes a lot of wisdom. But if you're going to do it for everyone, you might want to practice it in your own mind first. Yeah. Like imagining it, practicing it, doing it on the cushion first. What do you think? Hi, new friend. Hi there.
They're very excited about your teaching. They've been wrestling for the last half hour. Thank you. They're hearing something.
Yeah. Oh, money, baby. Oh, money, baby. So, so we have about half an hour left. We can do some Tonglen, and that's basically what I had prepared. If you want, do you have more questions about these phrases wherever I go and whomever I accompany? Yes, Barbara.
I don't have questions about that. I was just wondering, is it possible to end a little bit early? Because I like to do the 10 o'clock Bodhisattva practice.
Ooh,
And that way
10.
it gives me just a little bit of a break, run to the bathroom, whatever, and then be able to do the practice.
Okay. I'm not familiar with 10 o'clock. Bodhisattva.
Oh, you know what? It's in Santa Fe, it's 9 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock my time. It's every evening.
Every evening. Is Claudio doing it every evening?
No, Claudio does it on Saturday mornings, and then there are rotating teachers that do it Monday through Friday.
I see. Wow.
Yeah, it's really nice.
That's really
So
nice.
I was just wondering if that was possible.
Yeah. So we can definitely do that. We didn't take a break in the middle because it was we were on a roll.
Mhm.
And so we can do a little bit of a Tonglen practice, and then we can dedicate and call it a night. It's fine with me. So why don't we settle ourselves into like a meditative posture, if I can. So we're gonna last week we just did taking, and we always take first because you have to actually kind of make room for giving by taking away suffering. So Tonglen is taking and giving, but we say it giving and taking in English, which is backwards because you take first and then you give. All right, so first let's just settle our physical body and mind. Notice any kind of pain or discomfort you have in the moment. Even a little one. Something not quite right. And imagine that someone you dearly love has that pain just like that. and their pain increases just a little bit, and you're fine with taking that as well. So you breathe it in. Imagine that on the breath in, you accept the pain of someone you love. And that dissolves that pain that you're feeling from, that you've accepted from them. That dissolves your feeling of a special self. And when you breathe out, you give that accomplishment to them. The benefit of having diminished as self-grasping, you give that away. You give away the benefit, the potential for happiness. So you can imagine your loved one drained of their pain and being filled up with happiness. As you breathe in their pain, diminish your self-grasping and give away any benefit. Now, if you know of someone around you that's experiencing some illness or something painful, you can do this for real. Gently taking that in. Diminishing your self-grasping attitude. And giving away the happiness that comes from having taken suffering and diminished self-grasping. Filling your loved one with happiness. And by not keeping any of that benefit for yourself, again, you're diminishing your self-grasping. And that additional benefit you can give away, right? Keep going. Don't keep anything for yourself. Breathing in that suffering. Diminishing your self-grasping. Breathing out the benefit. Diminishing your self-grasping, giving away that benefit. Maybe your mind is filled with light as you're doing this. Breathing in the darkness from someone else. transforming that darkness that's in yourself into light and giving that away. Now invite your friend to move to your left and sit down and join you. They can breathe alongside of you. They're completely happy to do anything. And imagine someone you have no connection to. And either the pain that you feel or the pain that your dear one is having is similar in this unknown person. So you continue breathing in that pain, suffering, discomfort, problem, obstacle. Noticing how it feels to the self, any kind of self-preservation that arises. Breathe through that. Diminish that self-grasping attitude. And breathe out all the benefit. Filling that unknown person with the great deal of potential for happiness. Breathing in their darkness, transforming your own darkness into light, and breathing out that light, giving it away. Diminishing your self-grasping by giving away what you want, taking what you don't want from others. Even though you don't know who they are. And once they are filled with this happy light, invite them to sit on your right side, and they're happy to do anything. And then invite a challenging person. And either continue with the same suffering, obstacle, problem, pain, illness. Or if you know this person has something specific, you can do what's for real. Invite that darkness into yourself. Breathing in. Notice how you're resisting. Transform by diminishing the self-grasping attitude. Gently. Transforming into light and happy potential, giving that away to the challenging person. Breathing in that darkness that you observe, transforming your own darkness into light. Breathing out all light, potential goodness. Giving that away to the person that provides you challenge, that is very dear because they provide practice of patience for real. And when there's no darkness left, and they are filled with a happy light, remember to dedicate all the goodness that this practice is producing for the sincere transformation of ourself into a true bodhisattva, an enlightened being, capable of benefiting all sentient beings as a Buddha. So, you can relax any tensions or feelings of discomfort in your body right now? No? Good, good. Okay. Anything you want to share?
I just have a couple of thoughts. Tonight was very daunting. Incredibly thought-provoking. And really inspiring. So thank you. Thank you so much to Rachel and to the other two participants. I really appreciate all three of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I
You can't experience anything you haven't created the cause for. So we four created the cause to do this together tonight. Yeah. And we can dedicate that all of this positive potential that we've sort of built this evening will continue to grow and develop more and more positive potential towards that goal of transforming our minds and transforming all of our problems into happiness, because we know how to do that through these kinds of instructions of holding others dear and supreme, or understanding all sentient beings are more precious than wish-fulfilling jewels, and so on. So by taking these trainings and practicing them, we can develop something. But even just listening to this one night, if it's not this year or this month or this week or even this lifetime, those seeds ripen, and then we can experience the results of those. So they don't go away. In order for them not to be sort of, like if you have seeds and they get old and then they don't find the right soil and then they disintegrate. So we want to seal them up and protect them, like some people do. They put wax around seeds or something, right? So this is what dedication does, is we've created these little seeds of potential for the future. And we, with these words of dedication, we seal them so that the forces of all the life that we live don't interfere with them ripening fully. So we dedicate. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception, all those unbelievable numbers of mosquitoes, chickens, worms, fish, into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhichitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. I want to do that one in Tibetan. Jamchub semcho rinpoche make panam gegyochi kepa nampa mepayang gongne gongdu pelwarsho. And then long life prayers. So these are for the teachers, without whom we wouldn't have any clue that any of this existed, that we could practice this way, that we could transform our mind, that we could become a Buddha. We wouldn't believe it otherwise. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers, honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Tenzin Oso, Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, foes, wanderers, and far-off places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us in intentionally descending again into a family of a far distant land, we make this request, O Lama, please, please live long. Geshe Tutecha, beloved teacher, leading your students towards wisdom and compassion, explain through exacting discernment the steps of the graduated path. You are the unequal guide. Please live along and stay alive. Okay, I think you'll have a few minutes break.
Thank you so much.